I mean, I think when you start telling people about a lot of this stuff, they're like, yeah, I had this. I didn't have an appointment, but I went to the house and knocked on the door. Or they had already said no 4 times, but I called them back. And that time his wife was there, and she's like, we need to get this. Like, dude, it's that's how things work out. And that's what I think about our business is that it allows us to truly, we make a legitimate difference. All right, guys, welcome to an episode of True Talk. I got my buddy Andrew Taylor here. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing amazing, man.
Oh, my God. I forget that. What did we used to? Oh, that was even better. We used to have that boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Well, it's great to be here. The studio makes me envious because it's like the best studio I've been in, so I love it. You doing good?
I'm doing great, dude.
What's going on with you, man? Bring us up to speed. Bring the Family First Life family up to speed on what's going on with Andrew Taylor.
Well, Atlas is 4.5 now.
He's a savage.
He loves animals.
Yes, he does.
So I kind of want to bring him to the national conference because Moo is bringing exotic animals.
They're bringing an alligator, a lion. No, what are they bringing?
They said I don't know if Dylan was lion, but he said a baby polar bear.
He did not say baby polar. They really? That'd be really cool. I think if Dylan Cummings says it, it's true. I don't think he's.
Well, they have to now.
I've never known him to have. He's on record now. So Atlas will be like working with Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah, he'll
helping
be
with the animals.
Working the booth.
Okay, I love it.
AC's 2.5. She's.
If Mutual of Omaha brought a lion, we could probably let AC wrestle it.
Yeah, she has no fear.
That is definitely true.
I guess that's it. I don't know. Is that a second kid thing? That's what people say, but I'm like, I don't know. She's just.
I just think I don't know. I think she's just who she is. I think people are just who they. You know what I mean? I think people always say like, "What's your birth order? What's this? Are you the oldest? You're the youngest? You're the middle?" And every once in a while, I was like, "I can tell he was the oldest." I'm like, "Dude, you just guessed. Like he was either the oldest or youngest." I mean, so I do. There's some truth to that. I do believe, but for the most part, I just think they're just wired that way.
Yeah. The other cool thing, since being lucky enough to work with FFL and insurance and integrity, I'm trying to get my mom to move to Vegas.
You're taking over the entire neighborhood.
So I'm trying to get the house next door.
Mm-hmm.
So our backyards will be combined.
Yeah.
And then that backyard backs up to Nicole's parents' backyard. So we'll have 3 yards, and then the kids can be with both of their grandparents whenever they want.
That is awesome, dude.
And they're cool parents because a lot of people are like, dude, are you sure you want your parents close by? But luckily I have cool in-laws and I love my mom. So
correct.
We're looking forward to doing that.
Mom's the best.
My 88-year-old grandma is going to move with her.
She was probably in the mafia. We're not sure.
We think,
yeah. You said you're sure. You said she's definitely got some mafia history in her.
Yeah. So that's what we're working on right now. And other than that, paying it forward to help new agents. We just got off the phone with a young agent who's excited to build something, and like I was when I was 19 years old.
So bring us back to 19-year-old Andrew Taylor. Gets introduced to the insurance business. Stater Brothers veteran. If you don't know where Stater Brothers is, are they only in California?
I don't know. I think so.
I've never heard of them anywhere but California, the grocery store.
Yeah.
Get in the business and walk us through like what was your biggest trials and tribulations early on in your business? That it seems, dude, it's weird that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, dude.
Like how old are you now?
35.
Yeah, like dude, you were so young.
Yeah.
When I met you, and now it's like, bro, you ain't young.
I met you when I was 19.
I know.
Time flies.
It sure does.
So first of all, this checker Ricardo gave me a book.
Checker. Tell them what a checker is for those that have not been in the grocery business.
Yeah, they're scanning your food and putting in the numbers for the tomatoes.
I call him cashier. You call him checker.
Yeah, okay. Cashier. Yeah. So the checker gave me a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it talked about selling to buy things that would get you out of the rat race. And I just I loved that idea of not making more money to buy nicer things, but making more money to kind of get free, you know? And then I was introduced to the life insurance business, which I never thought I would do because I was super shy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, dude, you don't have to talk to anybody that doesn't ask for your help. So you're just following up on people that said they're kind of interested in life insurance. And
so you didn't love talking to people?
No.
At that age? Like you go to the grocery store and not talk to anybody. Bag your groceries,
yeah,
take your break, eat your food, go home.
Yeah. I mean, I would talk to people once I got to know them,
Got it.
but it would just take a little while.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I could follow up on people. So, and then I was like, okay, if I could make one sale, I could pay my whole month salary at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I'm not going to risk it.
You don't want to risk a job that I can make that money in 1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it when I get off. So when I would get off, I would take my apron off and I would go drive to my appointments, which usually would be kind of far. And I would just go try to help people. And I found a few people that they just wanted it. I didn't even have to sell them, you know? And so I got a couple commission checks, and then everybody, dude, family, friends, everybody was like, you're going to lose your benefits at the grocery store. The insurance industry's a scam. That's a pyramid scheme. I looked it up. Don't do it.
I always like that. I looked it up.
Yeah. He'll be back. And that's one thing that motivated me was the he'll be back one.
The Stater Brothers people.
Yeah.
Who is your nemesis at Stater Brothers? Who is the person that you're like, man, he's really a pain in my ass? Was there one on the way out?
No.
No, they're all
the thing I didn't like is asking to do anything. Like, can I have Friday night off to go on a date?
Who was your manager?
My manager was Ron.
How old was Ron?
He's maybe 50.
Was he cool?
They loved me because I didn't bother anybody, and I showed up on time and worked, you know?
So you were 19, like, I'm not going to college. I graduated high school. Like,
I was in college.
Okay, you were
in college. I'm sorry.
Too,
yeah.
Where at?
Victor Valley College.
Perfect. The mecca of academia. It's like Harvard. It's like the Harvard of the West.
Basically.
What was it again? Victorville what?
Victor Valley Community College.
Victor Valley Community College. VVCC.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds like a Victorville thing. So you're in class. You're in school full-time?
I'm in school full-time at the grocery store, and I wanted to be like a psychologist or something.
Okay.
I think that's like on everybody's list at some point.
Yeah, probably. Especially if you don't know what you're going to do.
I had good grades. And
well, you're really smart, so that's not surprising.
Well, yeah, kind of. I studied hard though. Like I think I studied more than
really?
Most people. Yeah. So I had good grades, and then I was like, you know what? I made a few sales. I read that book, and the book was kind of saying like you could go to school and get in debt, and there's a good chance that you might not make that much money coming out of it. So I was like, let me just give it 60 days. I'm going to take a break from school, 60 days, and go full-time selling insurance. And I was like, I told everybody, my mom, everybody, I'm like, I'll go back. I'll finish. And then I never finished.
VVCC lost a good graduate.
Yeah. I never went back. And, but dude, this is some of the struggles that you asked me about. One was I would kind of beat around the bush a little bit when I was selling. And I would be like, you could cancel it if you don't like it. It was kind of like a soft close.
Yeah.
And so 6 months into the business, I wasn't really making much money. I was making enough, but I didn't have any bills. I didn't have any kids.
Yeah.
So
it was better than Stater Brothers.
Yeah, it was better than Stater Brothers. But I think I sold 17 policies July of that year, and like 15 of them canceled.
Really?
So I had a big problem. And it was just because I was a little timid. And then I talked to you at one point, and I was like, what do you do? Like, how do you get people to listen to you? I was like, dude, people watch TV when I'm in the appointment with them. And you're like, dude, you got to take control. So you told me, take the remote, turn it off. And they're going to be like, what the heck? And then you told me to say, hey, this is super important for you and your wife. And I can't do a disservice to your family by having you be distracted with the TV.
Did it work?
And it worked, dude. So I got really confident.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing is like, okay, you could come in this business, you could be shy, but if you do it enough, you'll get really confident. So I started to get super confident. My close ratio went up. I started telling people like, you'd be crazy if you canceled this. It only gets more expensive if you're older. Promise me you'll call me if you're thinking about canceling this. And then
you took control.
I took control. And I was just, I believed in it so much that they didn't cancel it. So my persistency went way up.
That's what I think. When I got in the business, what was surprising to me was how lackadaisical our approach was, because I had been in sales that was not lead-based. So I was very blessed to have knocked on doors.
Yeah.
So I'll still never forget when Jim Godwin showed me a lead. Dude, I about lost my mother freaking mind. Like, I literally was like, how many do you have? He goes, you even haven't asked me how much they cost. I said, I don't care. I'll pay for them. How many? It was like gold, like Glengarry, Glen Ross, which for all of y'all are too young to know what I'm talking about. Like those gold leads, like that you just don't. And when I would go to meetings and I'd be like, dude, what do they say when they call these people and go to their house? Because somebody's like, what do you say when you cancel? And I'm like, bro, if you cancel, I'm coming back. I will be at your mother freaking front door pounding on that thing.
Dude, I remember
Want to know why you canceled.
When you were like, if you're not home, I'll be in your driveway all night.
So I used to say all the time, that's my job. I got to sit there. So if you call the police or something, say it's a weird guy in a Honda Accord in your driveway, blue Honda Accord, that'll be me sitting in your driveway all day long because we got an appointment, right? You know, what was one of the craziest things that you went through in the life insurance business? What's in the field, whether it's building your business, anything where you're like, if you weren't in the business and I told you, you wouldn't believe me.
I think that well, one, I almost can't believe how good of an industry it is.
Yeah.
Like if you're not in this industry and you kind of would look at it and go, it can't be that good. But if you start to go look at the numbers and how fast you get paid and what you get to do, how rewarding it is, it's insane. And all the different products. Now the IULs, what those do, I got 2 on my kids.
Yeah.
Everybody should I think every agent should do that.
Now, when your people around you, family, friends, whomever, forget about the Stater brothers, they just wanted you to come back to your job because you were good and no drama. But the people that genuinely cared about you in your life, that were like, dude, that's a scam. It's a pyramid scheme. Where do you think that comes from? Because they're not stupid people. I mean, unless they are. I feel like, dude, they're limited. They're stupid. Where does that come from?
Human nature, I think. Just assuming it's too good to be true. I don't know.
And I think that's that rich dad, poor dad deal.
Yeah.
Right? Is really this, your poor dad. And again, for me, when I look back on my life, I didn't have my mom. We were poor, but it wasn't like there's no poor mom, rich mom, I guess, book. And I didn't have a mom. I had guys that coached me that had done really well. That would have been my rich dad, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think that my family was just an overall poor dad kind of concept, right? They didn't believe. And it's funny when you guys, because when I was 19, maybe 20, I bought my first property. And I remember I told, like, my mom and some other people, and they immediately, like, freaked out. And it's weird, Andrew. I've never talked to my mother or those people about anything I've done ever again. And I mean, and I'm not being mean. I'm just like, if they're like, how's insurance going? Good.
Mm-hmm.
How's real estate going? Good. Tell me about what you're doing. I'm like, what do you want for dinner? Like, I'm not mean. I'm just like, I'm never going back to that, even though I'm where I am now, where it didn't matter to me then. But it was funny because I'm very black and white in that regard. Like, I'm protecting me no matter what I do, unless it's get a job that you tell me to get. And especially for me, I got a state job, which when you're raised broke, state jobs are like the mecca, like benefits, time off. I mean, dude, I actually paid pretty well. I mean, I was making $100,000 a year in my early 20s as a social worker. Now, I worked a lot of overtime, but like $100,000 a year, nobody in my family that I was aware of ever made $100,000 a year. So I thought, like, this is a great benefits. I mean, my benefits I didn't pay anything for whatever my kids went through, whatever their mom, like, I was good. And, so when you look at where the business is today, the insurance business itself, what has been the best change that you've seen over the last decade?
Oh, dude.
And well, give me that one first. I mean, like, I have a follow-up question for you after that.
The best change is you can do it virtually from anywhere in the U.S. And the fact that people who couldn't drive before, let's say it's a single mom and she has kids, she couldn't go drive around all day running appointments, but she could pop on the phone for 4 hours at night and even work a different time zone and make 3 or 4 sales or whatever it is, what that could do to change her life. That's one thing. The fact that somebody who, let's say they're fighting a illness they can still pop on the phone. They can call people. There's a lady someone was telling me a story about. I don't know her name, but I'd like to meet her in FFL, who I guess had stage 4 cancer, was calling in the hospital, was making sales, was still paying her bills. Like, dude, how amazing is that you could do that? And then like the fact that the part-time opportunity opened up because like, okay, till at 9 p.m. tonight, it's only, you could work in Las Vegas. You could call people in Hawaii until midnight.
Oh, no.
You could wake up at 5 a.m. You could call people on the East Coast.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, you have that opportunity there. And then like the entry level to get in is much easier. So like I used to be scared to recruit people I know because driving around and seeing 15 people in one day, and we would drive 3-4 hours to go see them
Everywhere, bro.
everywhere. Take a plane to go see them.
Hotels, rental cars.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Like I did it because I wasn't willing to quit, but a lot of people wouldn't do it. And then now you can go, okay, I have my mother-in-law. She is like, I have extra time. She's making sales. My Uncle Jimmy, my friends from high school.
Uncle Jimmy's the best.
Uncle Jimmy's the best. And so I think the biggest opportunity, dude, is like, I'm confident talking to anybody and saying, hey, give this a shot. And I don't know if everyone's going to make it, but I think they have a good chance if they work hard.
So, I would agree with that. I think it's been able to change the game dramatically. But I think with that change, since, it's true talk, right? With that change is the understanding that it's a change. Meaning when I drove around to 10, 12 appointments a day and saw people face to face, sat at the dining room table, met their children, talked to them, shook their hands, the persistency was unbelievably good.
Yeah.
And I mean unbelievably good.
Agreed.
I never had a persistency problem personally. Like I you know what I mean? I tell people I had a right placement, but I mean persistency, like you got it. You were keeping it. And when people wanted to go virtual before COVID, because obviously we have the technology to do that, and I was like a rabid animal about not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, be clear, I've made plenty of bad decisions along the way, right? But I was just purely concerned that people wouldn't acknowledge the difference and wouldn't work hard enough to rectify it. Because if you were to ask me what's the most surprising thing about the insurance industry today, is that more people aren't recruited into it. How in the world are recruiting numbers not really gone up when you can do it virtually now?
I know.
See, that's the thing. Like, when you look at it, I'm like, well, everything you just said to me makes complete and perfect sense. No matter what you're doing, because if you have a full-time job, 40 hours a week, I had to leave my job, get my car, drive to my appointments.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I could have stayed in my office at the state, went down the hallway, grabbed my phone, and dialed for 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to drive an hour back to where I ran out of and then start driving over to place there. And if you get out of work at 5 or 6, how many appointments can you run? 2 or 3? I mean, maybe. So I'm surprised. Why do you think more people don't recruit? Because I was listening to Grady do a call recently. And the guy's on there like, well, I recruited them. They found other people, but I was the first one. I was like, dude, you should do this, We do the Ignite event. I recruit that dude at the Valet. Like, I'm like, why? Like, I'm like, dude, we've had an event for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Like, why don't anybody, like, you seem like a great dude. He's like, I got my life license. I'm like, he goes, I was hoping you would talk to me. I go, talk to everybody. I said, why'd you want me to talk to you? He goes, just your attitude. And you seemed like upbeat, and I want to talk to you. How do we actually, better question. How do I get better? How do we get better at encouraging and empowering people to share the opportunity and recruit people?
That's a good question. Maybe we, you remember when we used to do a call every single week?
Which one?
It
Which
would be
time?
a recruiting call.
Yes.
And we would just invite people to learn on.
I loved those calls.
Like, even just a basic call, like, because that's what I use to recruit people. Is I'd go. I always say I'm just the connector. Like, I don't even think I was ever good at recruiting.
I don't know. You recruit a lot of people. So
I'd be like, okay.
But that might have been the magic.
That's the magic.
Maybe you thought you were. You're just like, I'll talk to you. I'm indifferent about it. I'll connect you to people. And if it works, it works. The opposite of your problem with sales early on, because you weren't indifferent. You were very worried about everything.
Yeah. So I would just be like, okay, let me introduce you to, Shawn Meaike, and hop on this call and listen to it for 15 minutes. And if you like what you hear, let's talk after. Something super simple like that. And that's what I would do.
Why do you think people are concerned because the thing about recruiting to me, where you're going to make an override, it's business, so not everything's always perfect. I totally get that. I think with virtual and the percentage of IUL sales, which is now 35%, give or take, and we want to be at 50 by quarter one of 25, the persistency is so good that it like almost makes it hard not to be profitable if you're selling those products.
Yeah.
I thought we'd have more people recruiting more people, if you will. If I were to ask you, if you had 80 people in here in your team, and I was like, hey, how many of you recruited more than 5 people last month? And let's say 2 of them did. What is the single biggest thing we can put inside? What can we say to those people to instill in their hearts and their minds? Because a lot of them just won't do it. Whether they're afraid, concerned, don't want sometimes it could be selfish. I mean, that's okay too. Like if you're like, dude, I just worry about me. Like I never recruited based on the amount of money I was going to make.
No.
When you asked me about sales, I was like, because here's my view of you. You didn't talk a lot. Somebody asked me one day, what did you think about Andrew Taylor? I'll never share this with you. And I said, I don't really know a lot about him. He's weird. That's what I said. I said, but he's fearless. And like, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, he's the guy. I don't know that he'd be any good at it, but if a fight broke out and he'd be fine, he's not afraid of anything. You can tell by looking at him. The guy was like, really? I'm like, yeah, dude, that's a skill set. Like, he's not going to back down.
Mm-mm.
He's just not. Well, I know, but I knew that. But early on, I knew it by just watching. I'm like, he ain't going nowhere. And I think that. And people are like, man, I didn't really think that. And then after a while, they're like, yeah, he did. You're right. And I'm like, he's just not going anywhere. Like, he's in either way. Like, he's when you go, whose car we're going to take? Andrew's in the back seat. You roll out there and you jump in the car, and Andrew's already in the car. He's like, where are we going? You're like, we're going. He's like, yeah, I'm already here. I might as well just go with you. Like, I mean, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And then you wake up and you're like, where are we? And he's like, guess we got to stay here for 3 years. Andrew's like, all right, like, what are we going to eat? Like, you're a survivor.
Yeah.
But I think that for me, it was so motivating because you see how many different kinds of people can do this. And I think when you were asking me about sales, I wanted to know, like, I was like, number one, I want to help him because he seems like a really good dude, and I love our business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never thought, I hate people like, well, I talked to Tom. Can he be on my team? It's like, dude, how about you just talk to Tom? Like, how about you just talk to Tom as a human being and realize that Tom has a family to feed and Tom wants to do well, and you have something that you can add to Tom. Why don't we just share it with Tom without any kind of what do I get in return?
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes you great at recruiting is when you decide, dude, I'm going to recruit people to help them change their lives.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
When was the very first person you remember? Because you were young. Where you're like, man, like this person has a family and I was the connector, but man, I really like helped change their financial situation. Who was that? If you look back in time, you're like, man, when so-and-so said this, I thought, wow, we're on to something. Do you have any idea?
I think the one that would stick out the most would be Trey.
Okay.
His Trey, now there's been a lot. I mean, we've had so many.
Tons of people, yeah.
Yeah. But Trey was like, I don't know if you remember this, but he called us and he was like, "Hey, he was working in the office and he was making, I don't know, $15 an hour."
Yep.
And he was like, "Hey, I want to try to do this for myself." And he called both of us and he was like, "Hey, I live in a really bad neighborhood. There's shootings all the time, and I want to make more money." And you were like, "Dude, well, why don't you work hard and go buy a new house?"
Yeah.
And then remember, like, it wasn't much longer. He was sending us a picture of his new house in a nice neighborhood with a better school and all these different things to us. And I was like, man, that's cool.
Well, I think that's the other thing, too. Like, dude, like, instead of commiserating about what's not like, how do we fix that now?
Yeah.
Like I remember one of the guys that we work with, who I love, and I remember him saying like, I'm like, what do you want? He's like, my daughters live 8 hours from me. I'm like, well, why don't you move? Like it wasn't like let's get new leads. Why don't you move?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't. It's more expensive. Why? No. You need to move. They need their dad. You need to move. That same guy messaged me yesterday. It was like, I'm here in Texas. We're at a softball tournament. We're doing Texas stuff. And they're like doing this stuff at a ranch. And I'm like, that's like, but, instead of, you can't, dude, the problem's the problem. Deal with it. Like, I don't like where I live. I didn't like when, like, I heard gunshots at night either. But once I had kids, I didn't like it before that. But I sure as hell wasn't like, sweet, my kids. And I think for me, it's trying to be solution focused. Because a lot of people want to like put their arm around the person and commiserate with them about how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, but is any of us going to do anything about it? Like, we're all right here. Like, what are we going to do about it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Trey's the best. We did learn Trey's not fearless. I'm not saying fearless. Trey's a stud, but he's afraid of dogs. We did learn he's afraid of dogs. He's not afraid of much. He's same deal. Like that guy fell off a truck because the guy was trying to serve him, broke his collarbone. He's an animal. But we did learn because remember that where he's the dog.
There's a Glassdoor review that says Andrew Taylor is a scumbag because he told a story about Trey getting bit by a dog and he was laughing.
Because it's funny and he was fine.
Let's tell him. I'll tell him. Okay,
Go ahead.
So we do a call early on and Shawn says that dogs only bite you if you're scared of them.
True.
And then Trey happened a few hours later to go to an appointment and there's a big German Shepherd in the backyard. And he goes, he decides to go in.
Give it a shot. He's not afraid.
And he said the dog was fine. And then he said he rang the doorbell. And right when the doorbell went off, it like triggered the dog and it started attacking him.
But he was okay.
He was okay.
He was okay. Like he got bit.
He got bit.
Did he go to the hospital?
Yes.
Oh, he did. He got bit pretty good in the leg.
In the stomach.
Oh, in the stomach.
Yeah. But it was like he was okay.
Were they there? Did they buy a policy?
He said the lady came out. She was on oxygen, and she got the dog and got him off a tray.
I never, and I was telling a different story. I was like, they tend to, unless they're rabid. Maybe that dog was rabid, but it is kind of, as long as he's okay, it was kind of funny. Trey's the best. But when you look at over the course of time, the lives that we can change, right? Do you remember your first death claim?
Oh yeah.
What was it?
It was ironically, we always train to work through the holidays, and I would wear this Christmas sweater.
I like that.
Which always like
people love it.
Dude, 100% clothes.
Yeah.
Like you wear your Christmas sweater.
Hey, you wear a Christmas sweater at your age, you're fearless.
So I would wear it, and no one ever wanted to work. This was between, I think it was right before Christmas.
Okay.
And so basically, like, I realized I would lose my momentum easily. So if there was like 4 days where I couldn't work, I would just work more in 3 days to always hit my same activity no matter what. But I went to this appointment. The guy was super cool, probably 40, had a 9-year-old daughter, bought a policy, and then they called me maybe a few months later and they said he got shot. And I had to go help the family with this claim. And I was like, it was crazy because I had been calling him for probably like 7 months, but he finally had time off to where I could go see him. So I always thought that was really interesting, the timing of me working through that holiday time,
God is great, dude. I mean, I think when you start telling people about a lot of this stuff, they're like, yeah, I had this. I didn't have an appointment, but I went to the house and knocked on the door. Or they had already said no 4 times, but I called them back. And that time his wife was there, and she's like, we need to get this. Like, dude, it's that's how things work out. And that's what I think about our business is that it allows us to truly we make a legitimate difference. I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, I can because you know you're writing a policy. You know that when they die, there's going to be a check. But until it happens, you're just like, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And then it happens, and you're like, damn, like, look what that did for the family. Or there was $400,000, you know, $320,000, $25,000. How appreciative people are.
Yeah.
All right. So last question. Family first life. If I had reached back and went back 11 years ago and said, hey, Andrew, we're going to have done billions of dollars in premium cumulatively in 10 years. We're still on this quest to do $1 billion a year, which we believe 25 will be our first year. We'll have 60-some-odd thousand agents that have been paid. What would you have said if I said any or all of those things?
Dude, I would, if we went back in time.
Yeah, 11 years ago.
I'd be like, no way.
What did you think? If I were to ask you 11 years ago, hey, what are y'all trying to do with this company? Like, what's your plan, dude? What do you think?
I mean, I thought it was going to be a few hundred of us writing policies and having higher commission. Like, I never imagined there would be the impact we would have made. And think about how many families.
I know.
How many families have
millions and millions and millions.
Yeah. And then, dude, I don't know. I remember when when we started, because I was thinking it'd be cool if I made like $250,000, $300K a year.
Like that'd been a lot. Yeah.
And then I remember the bonus started climbing, and I remember I got my first month just in a bonus for $50K.
You were like, damn.
Is this real? How long is this gonna last?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think it's we were talking about earlier. I think we have a lot of people who it's cool to believe in people that have kind of given up on themselves. You don't want them to give up on themselves, but when they do, and then you believe in them and you see what they can accomplish, it's life changing.
I want to say this, like, I think that this is the reason I love this business and this company so much is because it's most of the people are underdogs, and they usually come from a situation that's not very good, and they have a chip on their shoulder, and they're like, they have an opportunity to like do something big for themselves. Because like if you start talking to people, it's like they live these crazy lives of things that happen, and they've turned it into motivation. And that's been one of your big gifts, is finding people who they have that, but they might not believe in themselves 100%. And you go, why can't you do that? That's what you did to me. You're like,
yeah.
I was like, dude, we're selling 500,000 in premium a month. And you're like, why can't you do $1 million? And then $1 million, you're like, why can't you do 2 million? At 2 million, you're like, why can't you do 4 million? And then it's like, well, I didn't believe I could do that, you know? But sometimes you just need somebody to push you a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and you allow yourself to do it, you want to do it. So lacking common sense can be good sometimes, where it's like the goals are so ridiculous that nobody can fathom them.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, dude, I appreciate you getting on. Appreciate y'all for watching True Talk. And Andrew Taylor, Shawn Meaike, we appreciate y'all.